Hi there, it's Nicole, and today I have a mix and match video. This is Donuts and Coffee, featuring a couple of my favorite new stamp sets from Neat and Tangled. This is the Say Yes to Donuts, which I featured last week as well. Cute little images of kids with donuts, and I'm pairing it with the big, bold brew image of the adorable little boy holding that oversized coffee cup. I'm going to start, I've kind of laid out my images and my dies here to create my card. The reason this is called a mix and match is because I am using tons of different products from different companies to make my card today, or at least a couple different companies. I'm not just sticking with one company. The images are all from Neat and Tangled, however, and I'm stamping them on some smooth white cardstock with intense black ink. And then I'm going to color them in with Copic markers. I am using the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink because this is a great ink for Copic coloring. And it's not going to bleed or anything like that. I am going to start coloring in everything. I'm going to color in the skin tones first. Because I only have these two images here, I tried to kind of stick with doing the skin tones on both. And then I'm going to set those markers aside and move on to the rest of the images. I'm adding a little R20 for the cheeks to pinken them up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do her outfit with some blue-green markers. Going to have kind of an aqua feel to the majority of this card. I'm creating some little leggings there. Using those same aqua markers, they're going to match the bow in her hair. And then I'm taking a white opaque pen and making some polka dots on her leggings. Now I'm going to take those same colors and use those to color in that large coffee cup. I started with my base color. I'm going to blend in a little of my darkest color along the edges and then take my mid-tone color and pull that dark color out, blending it into my lightest color. And then I'll go back in with my lightest color to blend out that coffee cup. Now these colors take a little bit of work to get blended out, and you want to be careful to not oversaturate the paper with those blue-green colors, especially the blue-green 11 that I used as my lightest color. Otherwise it will bleed outside the stamp line. I colored in the coffee with some dark brown colors. Go ahead and get that coffee cup handle there. Now I did get my coffee really dark and I decided to go in a little bit later and lighten that up, which I'll show in a bit. The pant legs of the little boy are just barely peeking out at the bottom, so I'm using some blue colors to make those look like denim jeans. For the shoes for both kids, I'm going to use cool gray markers and then use a lighter cool gray marker or the colorless blender or both, a combination of both, to put little scuff marks there on the toes of the shoes. Go ahead and move on to the little boy's hair. Pretty similar colors to the same colors I used for the coffee and the coffee mug. Go ahead and color in my donut. Because everything else is pretty dark here, I decided to go with the kind of traditional color for the donut instead of maybe making it a chocolate donut or something like that. So I'm using some light E colors here. E50, 51, and 55. Blend all of those out really good. Once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and frost the donut with some quote-unquote chocolate frosting, again using those darker E colors. I'm not really going and grabbing any additional colors. I kind of kept to the colors I had laying out already for on my desk for other parts of this, or these images plus the other ones I did. I did all these cards in the same day, so a lot of these markers were already out. Once I have that frosting colored in, go ahead and color in the little girl's hair with some light E colors again. I'm using just some light colors, give her some lighter hair than the little boy, and especially it'll help it stand out a bit with the chocolate frosting there. I didn't want to go too dark with her hair. Once they are completely colored in, I'm going to take the coordinating dies from the Say Yes to Donuts and Big Bold Brew stamp sets. I'm going to tape those in place and die cut both of these at the same time. I'm using a little Post-it tape to hold the dies in place. I'll have to go ahead and trim out my dies using some snip scissors. I'll grab my Big Shot and then die cut both of these really quick. Now once I have these die cut, I'm just going to double check with the other dies and things I have out to make sure that I still like how that's going to look before I go ahead and commit to die cutting my background pieces. So there are the little girl and boy, so cute. They work perfectly together. I absolutely love that. I have a frame from Lawn Fawn and then a little hillside border from Lawn Fawn. It's going to frame up those. I'm going to use a black gel pen to just darken the eyes there, really make the eyes pop. And then I'm going to take my colorless blender, like I was talking about earlier, and lighten up a little area in the coffee. I'm going to let that dry completely. And I'm going to go ahead and die cut my background using a stitched circle die from Lawn Fawn. This is going to be the same size as the stitched frame die. I'm going to die cut this twice. From one of these, I'm going to create my background, that kind of aqua or cracked, it's going to be the cracked pistachio distress ink background. From the other, I'm going to die cut my little landscape that the girl and boy are going to be standing on. So I'm going to grab those and just make sure that I leave enough room for them, tape my simple stitched hillside border in place, and then die cut that from the second circle. I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way for now. I'm going to take both of these pieces, and you can see my stitched circle frame is going to fit that perfectly, and that's just going to frame up my scene. I'm going to take my greeting from the Big Bold Brew stamp set, stamp that with Versamark ink, and then sprinkle on some white embossing powder and heat set that. I'm going to do a little embossed resist with my distress inks for that. First, I'm going to do the background. I am using the distress inks on smooth white cardstock, so I think I've probably mentioned this before, but you need to use a little bit lighter hand so you don't get those ink blending tool marks. The ink will kind of absorb into the paper and even out a bit as the ink dries. But I am keeping the darker color near the landscape and then lightening it up near the top of the circle. And then I'm going to take Hickory Smoke Distress ink and color in my little landscape border here where the kids are standing on. And you can see now my greeting is showing up with that dark ink around it. Go ahead and just kind of buff off that greeting. I used my finger. Usually I would use a paper towel. And that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and go in with my E55 for the coffee and just kind of color in where I use the colorless blender to lighten it. I'll grab my Big Shot again, and from this I am going to die cut a stripy panel using a Lawn Fawn die. This is going to create my background. I decided to do an inlay background that's going to be a gray and white stripe. So I need two of these backgrounds, one from white, and then I'm going to die cut another using some Simon Says Stamp slate gray cardstock. And I'm going to keep the inside pieces for this one, and I can keep the other background for another project at another time. From some black cardstock, I'm going to die cut that stitched circle frame several times. I think I probably die cut 5 times because I'm going to stack them one on top of another to really make a bold frame around the cute little scene. So I've got a top fold card base from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to cover it with some nice strong adhesive. I'm using the Glue Glider Pro Permatac. Then I'm going to attach my white stripy backdrop. And because that adhesive is all over the front of the card, I'm able to not only attach the stripy backdrop, which is an A2 size, but I can go ahead and instantly inlay all of these slate gray cardstock pieces and they're going to attach. I don't have to worry about adding any liquid glue or anything like that. Super easy and fast way to create this two-tone background. So there is my great stripy background. I'm going to go ahead and attach my circle right on my card, build the scene with my border with the stamped greeting. Then I'm going to just take some liquid glue, draw a circle around that circle background, and start attaching these frames one on top of another. I'm just using a heavy acrylic block to hold those down in between applications so they don't pop up. And it's going to also help kind of compress them together and make them really nice and strong. I added some adhesive on the back of both the boy and the girl. I'll go ahead and tuck those in place before I add the rest of my frames, because I do need to kind of get the handle of that coffee cup under the edge. I didn't want it to dry too much. I'll go ahead and finish adding my frames one on top of another. And then I'll set my acrylic block on those and set that there until the glue is completely dry. I did stamp the coffee drips and the heart from the Big Bold Brew stamp set. I'm going to color those with some Copic markers really quick. I did do 3 of the hearts instead of just the one stamped here. I started with 1 and I decided I needed to go ahead and do 3 of them. Coloring those in, coloring the heart in with some red Copic markers. The card is basically kind of that aqua and gray and white or black. But I like the little pop of red on cards. I just think it adds a little something special to the card design, and it really makes the whole design pop. So I decided to stamp these hearts and color them in with the red markers. If you didn't want to color, you could definitely take the hearts from the Say Yes to Donuts stamp set, and they're solid hearts, stamp them with a colorful ink and add those to your card instead. I am taking the coordinating dies now. They're teeny tiny little dies, taping them all in place with a little Post-it tape. And then I will run all of these through my Big Shot die cutting machine. And like I said, I did end up stamping and coloring 2 more of those hearts for my card. So once I get those all die cut, I'm going to take some Zotz Bling glue dots and attach the hearts to my card. I used a little liquid adhesive for the 2 coffee drips because they were so small and they're kind of on the edge there of the frame. And then I'm going to finish the design by taking a little Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen and coloring in the hearts to make them glittery, and then adding a scattering of Pretty Pink Posh sparkling clear 4mm and 6mm sequins, and adding some clear gemstones to the center of my sequins. And I even added a scattering of a few additional gemstones throughout the card, especially kind of a couple there on heart designs. And that is going to finish off my mix and match card here using the Neat and Tangled Big Bold Brew and Say Yes to Donuts stamps and dies, as well as Lawn Fawn dies to create the backgrounds. Thanks for joining me today. Here are a couple more videos that you might be interested in. Please subscribe for weekly card making and stamping videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.